I was able to check out a really awesome project with precision painting. They do some awesome work throughout the GTA, and on this particular job, there was a lot of fun details that I think is worth mentioning, whether it comes to just the painting itself, faux finishes, refinishing of cabinetry and built-ins, so much fun. And then I got to follow the owner along as well, which was really insightful. And I thought I would share it with you guys because it was really fun to do. And I know you guys like to be a fly on the wall, so here we go.
Hi, I'm Chris from Precision Painting. We've been around since 2004 and we service everywhere in the GTA. Our work is primarily focused on custom homes and beautiful renovations like this, and we work primarily with Benjamin Moore paints. Here we're in the grand entrance and hall of the home where they had this beautiful applied molding put onto the wall and the wall paneling, and the designer decided to go with the same color that they used on the walls, which is the OC28 Collingwood. However, they did it with the pearl finish, which means we couldn't actually do it the same time as the walls because the sheen is a different sheen, pearl finish. So we actually started off with the paneling. All the nail holes had to get filled, sanded, and all the caulking was done between all of the joints. Once that's done, then we prime all of the wood. Once all of the wood is primed, then we have to go over it, sand it again, double check any of the nail holes, make sure nothing was missed. So the first time we sanded down, we sanded with 150. The second time we sand with 220. And then for our final sand, we go with either a 320 or a 400 grit just to get this polished finish and making all of our trims look like glass. Once this beautiful wall paneling has been completed, we mask it completely off because unfortunately for us, everything is different colors. So the lower level crown molding and the wall paneling were done in the Collingwood pearl finish. At that point, we moved on to the higher level crown molding, the corbels, as well as the applied molding on the ceiling, which was done in classic gray, 50% lighter, also done in a pearl finish. Typically, we spray and back roll the ceilings, but because the crown molding is a different color than the ceilings and the crown molding is much more intricate than the ceilings, we chose to spray the crown molding as opposed to the ceiling. So we had to paint the ceilings all by hand and paint all the walls by hand. Scuff-X is our favorite product to use on any sort of a trim or anything that has a sort of a sheen to it. It dries very smooth and it's extremely durable. Once we started using Scuff-X, there was no turning back. This is obviously an existing kitchen. It was all done with a mahogany colored wood. The client obviously wanted to change with now updating her house with the renovations, and she is matching the colors to the countertops, and she decided to go with a silver satin color on the cabinetry. Essentially, the first steps that we had to do was to take it apart. So we take all the drawer faces and we take all the cabinets off, take it from the hinges, and we bring those to our shop. All of the built-in cabinetry that you see here, we have to spray in-house, which means that we have to mask this place off entirely in order to get it sprayed correctly. So once we have all of the doors and the hinges and everything off, we have to mask inside the cabinets because the inside the cabinets are still that white oak color, and they wanted to keep that, of course. Floors, obviously, and we protected the ceilings from the overspray as well, as those were already painted. Prior to priming it, we gave it a scuff sand, and then we used a pre-catalyst primer to coat all of the kitchen. Not once, but twice. I received 2 coats of primer. And once the 2 coats of primer were completed, we gave it another sand. At that point, we sprayed it with a water-based urethane, which was tinted to the silver satin, which you see here currently. This is what it looks like after the 1 coat of paint. After that was completed, we let it dry for the day, came back this morning, and it got sanded down entirely now with a 400 grit sandpaper. The entirety of the kitchen all got caulked in between all of the gaps and edges. So now that it's completely sanded and caulked, we're ready for the final coat of paint. So in this kitchen, they decided to paint the pantry, the uppers, and the lower cabinetry all with the silver satin, and the island was painted with the La Paloma Gray 1551 Benjamin Moore. So over here we have a live edge wood bar top with some accents as well in this beautiful area of the home. Currently the live edge was stained with a smoked colored stain that the client wasn't very happy with, so they asked us to go over it with another product. This is the exact same product that they used initially. It's a Rubio Monocoat product, which is not your typical stain and urethane combination that you would usually see with wood. The Rubio Monocoat is all oil finishes, and it doesn't need to have any sort of urethane done on top. So here I'll show you how we do this. It spreads very, very well, so you don't need much of the product. It actually does carry a long way. So we just apply it on and actually scrape it back and forth with the plastic scraper. And you try to spread that as far as you can before going over it with an abrasive applicator. So you see those few drops actually spread quite a bit. And once we're done that, we just go over it with this application pad and we kind of just smooth it in. And it's a blending process until we get it all coated. We were tasked with the project of trying to make this drywall match the stone that they have here for the mantle. And what we did is we essentially did a Venetian plaster, which is a kind of a rough plaster that we did on the drywall. And such, at that time, we also de-stressed that plaster using things like steel brush and hole punchers to try to mimic the indents and the pivots that you find in the stone. Once the plaster was dried, we gave it a light sand and did a full finish technique where you blend multiple colors of paint to try to get the different shades in there to match what you see on the stone. Once that was done, then we used a darker stain and rubbed it on to get inside all of the grooves to make the grooves a little bit darker. And once that was complete, we went over it with a urethane coating.
Just as a quick sidebar, we offer custom palette pyramids to our clients. So if you need a 3-color palette, a 6-color one, or a 12-color palette for an entire home, click the link in the description down below, and within 3 business days, you will have your own personalized palette pyramid from me. All right, we're back in King City with Chris from Precision Painting. And we're gonna do a quick walkthrough and basically see this incredible project and go into some of the details on the colors and some of the other really awesome finishes. So Chris, why don't we start here in this beautiful hallway? There's a lot going on with like the different colors. So why don't we talk about how it all came together?
So it's not your standard one color on the walls, one color on the ceiling, one color on the trim. There's actually a lot of detail, which you find a lot more with these traditional homes, but this one's very ornate and a lot of high-end detail here with all the paneling. If you were to look around, you'll see the paneling throughout the hallways, foyer, and inside the family room. And with the wall paneling, we have a nice fine finish, spray finish that we did with the Scuffex Pearl. The color that you see on the paneling is Collingwood.
Okay, great.
Once that was complete, we had that all masked off, and then we moved on to the trims. The trims would be the base and the case that you see, which in this area was done in Simply White, also a Scuffex, and we got a spray finish on there.
So that would be here, right?
Yeah, Simply White is a nice, beautiful color to tie in with the warm colors that we see on the walls. It's not your stark white, but it's not too creamy.
Yeah.
It's a nice balance there.
For sure, love Simply White.
Yeah, so once the trim was all sprayed out, we had to mask all of that off and then move on to the ceiling. There was a lot of steps in order to achieve the look that you see in this one hallway.
Well, there has to be, right? Because there's that multi-tiered approach is the only real way to
Plenty of layers.
Plenty of layers, yeah. Like
a lot of texture.
Like a nice layer cake.
There you go. And if you move into the dining room, you'll see we have the same type of effect in terms of the crown molding and the ceilings.
Yeah.
Right, you got that 50% classic gray, 50%
cool.
lighter. It carries over and all the crown molding and then the inner panel molding as well, with the ceiling itself being done.
It's clever because classic gray, it's I mean, it's an off-white, but it still has some depth to it. So by going with that half formula, it really makes it much more of a subtle transition between the ceiling color. Now, I did notice when I was here last time, there was a sign that said, no fucking shoes.
I did say that, yes.
Did any of your guys walk with shoes?
No, they just wanted to be extra sure because these floors were actually stained on site.
Oh yeah.
So we couldn't have any traffic in these areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So it was just precautionary.
It's precautionary.
Okay, cool.
In this room, we have a lot of a similar aspect to what we described in the front foyer in the grand hall there, where it's multi-layers in terms of colors.
For sure.
This one, we actually add another dimension. So in this color with the paneling, we did elephant ear, which is a Sherwin-Williams color.
Oh, nice.
Which we had custom color matched through Benjamin Moore. Yeah. Because of course, Benjamin Moore is capable of doing that. And again, same approach. We started with the paneling first, had that all sprayed.
Nice.
Moved on to the trim, again, base and case, simply white.
Simply white.
In this room, we wanted to keep the lower level crown molding the same color as the walls.
Cool.
So the walls are calling wood, the crown molding is also calling wood. However, we wanted to have the sheen on the crown, so we actually had to spray the crown first with the pearl finish from the Scuff X, and then afterwards do the walls by hand with the Benjamin Moore Regal. So although it's the same color, it adds a little bit more dimension to it, a little bit more texture because of the sheen difference.
Is there always like a clear answer of which surface you should paint first in this kind of situation?
Absolutely. So typically you want to do all of your spraying before you're painting by hand.
Yeah.
I mean, every job has its own variables. Typically our standard would be to spray the ceilings and then spray all your trim and doors and then do the walls by hand. But in this situation, we did things a little bit differently only because of all the different colors.
Yeah.
We decided to do the paneling first because it's easier to mask off. Panel molding we did afterwards, and then afterwards we did the ceiling by hand.
So this is the finished product.
This is the finished product. What do you think?
Stunning.
Stunning, right?
So I love this finish on the wood.
So this is all live edge, and it was all done raw. So we had the task of getting it stained.
Kitchen time, my favorite.
Yeah, the kitchen was completely refinished. Before it was a wooden kitchen, a dark wood.
Was it similar to this color?
It was very similar to that color.
Wow.
Absolutely.
What a difference.
A little bit outdated, and they just wanted to bring it to, the 21st century, so they decided to get us to paint it out.
Awesome.
We removed all of the cabinet doors, drawer faces, as well as these pieces that you see that cover the fridge and stuff like that, and we took it over to our shop where we had it sanded down, primed, all the holes filled, and then painted with a lacquer urethane. All of the boxes here, we masked off the inside of the cabinets. We got it primed and prepped and sprayed on site.
Amazing.
The kitchen is done in OC26, which is silver satin.
Good
and
color.
The island is actually a different color. It's a very subtle transition.
Yeah.
It's done in La Paloma gray.
Did you guys do this too?
We did do this as well, yeah. This is just done with an untinted Benjamin Moore waterborne ceiling paint.
Good old pre-mixed white, yellow label.
My favorite white for ceiling is the waterborne ceiling paint by Benjamin Moore. It's a really nice color white.
Ultra flat.
Yeah.
I personally love it too. Like, why complicate things with the ceiling sometimes?
Yeah.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for having me,
Thank you,
buddy.
James. It's been a pleasure.
Being a fly on the wall in your amazing projects. Until next time.
Until next time. Thank you.
Thanks, camera person.